Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of When I Was Your Age. I'm your host, Roland Parker, and as always, it is a joy, pleasure, and a treat to have you here. Today's guest I'm really excited about is Fletcher Hare, who is a professional ultimate player. He plays for the Indianapolis Alleycats. I'm really excited to catch up and chat it up with him, and I really appreciate him taking the time to tell us a little bit about what it's like in his world. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. Make sure that you follow the Instagram at WIWYA pod. And thank you guys again so much for the support. We're currently at 358 followers. And I like throwing in that little update just to kind of give you a picture of where we're at. As these episodes come out, you can get a visual of that. Make sure to send in your questions. You can do that through DMs or email. I'll throw up some question boxes on Instagram stories as well. And thank you so much to everybody who sent in a question for this episode. I really appreciate it. We're gonna get into some of those a little bit later. But without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and to bring in Fletcher. Fletcher, how's it going, man? What's up with you?
Pretty good, man. Appreciate you having me on. I just finished a workout and hit the sauna, and then ate some food right before this, so I'm feeling good.
Nice. Okay, that's not far off from me as well. I did the sauna after the workout too. How long do you like to get in there for? I usually can't do much more than like 15 minutes.
I usually stay in there for about 20 minutes each time.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I like the feeling and the sensation just fine, but like generally like after it's like I just cannot catch up on hydration that way. It's but I love like the feeling of it and all that, especially like after a workout, just kind of pushing through a little bit more.
Same here.
Okay, let's see here. So what have you been up to? When we were talking, you were in the midst of travel. So where were you this past weekend?
So I flew up to Madison for our game against the Radicals. It was our second game this year, so we beat them the first time by a point or two, maybe. It was a close game the first time we played them at home. And our home course or our home field is the Colts practice facility up in
No
Carmel, Indiana. It's an indoor facility. It's the only indoor facility in the league.
Nice.
And yeah, we started that game out really well and then let them come back like we've done in the past, but we closed that one out. And then this past weekend did the same exact thing, except I felt like we were a little bit more in control this game.
Sure.
We had a few strategies to slow the game down and play a little bit more strategically this time around, and we edged it out by a point this weekend. So super fun.
Nice, good deal. Well, always good for to sweep in that. And will you play them again later in the season, or so is that kind of it for y'all's engagements in the regular season?
So they are the team this year that we play 3 times. Last year it was Detroit, who, as a lot of people in the league know, have lost a historic amount of games in a row. Our opponent that we played 3 times this year is and was Madison. So we play them one more time. It's going to be this weekend at Grand Park, so at home.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. And you guys I think the last that I saw were 6-2. Is that the most current record for you all?
That's correct. Yeah, we're tied for first now after Minnesota lost to Colorado this past weekend.
Nice, man. That's freaking sick. I love to hear it. Well, I'll get into some of these questions that I've got for you. I like to ask every guest that I've got on here, if you don't care. So, where are you from, and where do you currently live?
Gotcha. So I'm from Forest Park, which is in Birmingham. A lot of people in Birmingham know Avondale, don't know Forest Park as well. So Forest Park's basically adjacent to Avondale, right outside the city.
Gotcha.
And currently I live in Cahaba Heights. Just moved in, just bought a house a few months ago. Actually, a few houses down from my sister. So
nice. That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's awesome. My parents are kind of on the side of Vestavia that's like pretty close to Cahaba Heights, like over by like El Poblano and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a lot of time there. That's all. How are you getting settled into all that?
It's been fun. Thankfully, I haven't had to do too many uh, handy things around the house, I guess. Started out the first few weeks just fixing everything that needed to be fixed. And that coincided with the start of the season. And so I just haven't, I've been traveling for work and traveling for Ultimate. So don't have a lot of time to get into everything else with the house right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no, I love that. It's always we're the first like major thing to like go wrong in our house was we had a leak in Tabby's office. It was like the drainage from like the sink. It thankfully like wasn't too bad, but we just kind of noticed like this like brown spot. And I was like, I was really preparing for it to be much worse than it was, but there's still like a section in the ceiling that's cut out where they replace that small section of pipe.
Mhm.
But it's no fun.
Not at all.
Good deal. And then so we've touched on this a little bit, but what do you do? And I think you should probably touch on both sides of it, because I think that when a lot of people think of professional athletes, that's your main digs, and like the AUDL being such a young league, that's not most people's experience. So to tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic lead in. So there's only a few people in the league that do it full time. I would say probably 5 to 10 max that can afford to play in the league and do that full time and get a full time salary, that type of thing. And there's usually something they're doing for their team as well, in addition to playing for it. Maybe managing social media or doing events for like the youth.
Mhm.
Currently, I have a main day job, I guess, that I do, which is most of what the league does. So I work in factory automation sales. I sell sensors and safety equipment and stuff like that for anyone that makes anything. So basically, think about it like if a machine needs to know where a part is or needs to know what type of part is being used so it can perform a process. That's the sensor that I'm talking about. They're called lasers or photolyzers, stuff like that. So
Nice. Okay. Good deal. And so, uh, yeah, that's interesting too that you mentioned that even the players that they can afford to like be salaried and full time, like they're still taking on maybe other responsibilities for their team. So like for me, what comes to mind is Matt Smith. It seems like he has a lot of responsibility when it comes to like youth programming, just in
yeah,
general for I don't know, for the sake of the sport, but then training for maybe Atlanta's program, which is that an accurate like parallel to draw there?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, he does a lot of the youth clinics. He actually works for the league as well. So he's not just employed by Atlanta Hustle, he's employed by the AUDL at large, and he's the player coordinator, I believe. I hope I didn't butcher that, Matt. Sorry. But he has a lot of hats that he puts on, and he's managed to do Ultimate full time, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what what I think is kind of so cool about what is happening right now is that eventually what we kind of long for is the same kind of framework as somebody would experience in the NBA or the NFL, and that you could do this full time. And but it's a I look forward to that, but it's come such a long way since I remember even thinking about what professional ultimate looked like, I don't
Yeah.
know, in high school. So so yeah, that's so interesting. Um, this question is not one I've employed before, but Destiny, shout out to Destiny. It's a she sent in this question about it wanting to integrate it in, and I think it's such a good thing because it's central to the theme of the podcast. So if you're not familiar, part of the reason that I wanted to do this podcast was I was recognizing people my age going out and doing things, being entrepreneurs, creating art, or pursuing like difficult fields. And I was inspired by that. But her question was, "How old are you?" And it kind of struck me because I was like, "Wow, I don't know that I've ever asked a guest before." But she made a really good point that it would probably tie things together in that we could recognize like, oh, this is attainable for this age. Like here's somebody who's doing it in real life. So So thank you, Destiny. I appreciate it. I look to integrate that for the future, and I appreciate you you bringing that forward in that way. So Fletcher, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Nice, excellent. It's a long lead up for that question, but
Yeah.
I needed to kind of explain my thinking there. All right. So now, what piece of media are you currently enjoying? Be that a book, podcast, music? What are you kind of integrating into your routine in that way?
This is a two-parter. So the
Okay.
first one led into the second one.
Okay.
I've really been enjoying it's an ultimate based podcast. It's called One Throw at a Time. It's two of the best players in the league right now, Johnny Mulks and Rowan McDonald, talking about frisbee and frisbee related things. And they recently had on one of the best players of all time on their podcast, who's currently still playing. His name's Jimmy Mickle. And
Okay.
he recommended one of the books that influenced him, when he was getting into Ultimate was The Art of Learning. Actually, I have it right here. And I just
Nice.
started this a few days ago, read it on the way up to Madison. It's about, so Bobby Fischer was one of the greatest, I guess, U.S. chess masters of all time. This book is about the next Bobby Fischer. I think this happened like in the early 2000s where this kid was a chess prodigy.
Hmm.
All I've gotten to so far is his early years when he's learning how to play chess in New York, and it's really good. And it's all about, how do you get to become a master at something? And it can apply to chess, sports, whatever.
Nice. Okay. So the you got to that book about the chess master through the podcast. It was something that one of the guests or hosts was reading, and you wanted to pursue that too.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. Love that connection there. Thank you for sharing that. Next question: what is something you'd consider a luxurious necessity? So for me, I'd say this is the example I give to everybody. Is a lot of people will choose like coffee, in that it's integrated into your routine. It's not something that's technically necessary, but it kind of blurs the line between what is something you want, something you need. So what is that for you?
This might not be the right answer, but the first thing that comes to mind is because it's so recent in my memory is I recently got these thing called Normatex, like compression
Okay.
legs. I don't know if you ever heard of them,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
they're basically compression pants that you can put on and they blow up and they promote blood flow in your legs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're definitely like a luxury, definitely not needed. But I've started using them every day. I ended up figuring out how to buy them with my health savings account. Don't tell the IRS. But
We won't snitch.
I've been using them every day for the past month or two, and I love them. But they're
Nice.
definitely not a necessity.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I would think too, with just personal health and then also professional, asset being your legs, that'd be a crucial thing to preserve the life of. So yeah, so it inflates and kind of provides that compression element to kind of speed along recovery. My understanding.
Exactly. Yeah, spot
Nice.
on.
Nice, good deal. I remember like in high school for like cross country, it was a big thing to have like I can't remember the brand anymore, but they all had like the same kind of design on the front. And they were like compression like socks and sleeves. And they were terrible to like try and get on, but they would just kind of like squeeze your legs to like promote the blood flow like back up. And I remember like people they were kind of expensive, but people would like go out of their way to get them.
Yeah, I think I've seen this before.
Yeah, there's a picture of me in them somewhere, I'm sure. Um, it's a next question here. Do you have any bits that you're doing? So, um, it's an example for me is my wife and I. We one of our favorite shows to watch together is New Girl, and frequently we are just saying quotes from the show back and forth. I think people probably have a similar experience to, like with The Office, and other shows like that. But do you have any bits like that? That's either with somebody or kind of humor for yourself, like to make yourself laugh, even if no one else in the room is following along with you.
Oh, that's a good question. Nothing comes to mind immediately, and I feel like all the bits that I could do from Succession would not be good for a family-friendly show. So
Sure,
I'll
sure.
just abstain from that for now.
Nice. Okay, so it's a if we can skate around it, but that with Succession bits, are you doing like a character imitation? And if so, like who is that, and what does that look like?
Oh man. Um I would probably do a decent impression of Kindle, but
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't want that out there on in public.
Sure, sure, sure. Oh my gosh. What did you finish it?
Yeah, finished up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? We'll not throw out any spoilers, but um, I I I thought it was good. I thought it was about as good as you could end it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of opinions, but I that was like one of the only shows that I've like enjoyed pretty much the same kind of level all the way through. But what were your thoughts?
I really enjoyed the ending. I think if it went the way people thought it was going to, it wouldn't have been par for the course for the whole show. So I am glad. I think a lot of people were mad because they wanted something, and if you really think about kind of the angle that it was taught from the whole way, like
Yeah.
it kind of fit in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's aptly put with while safely avoiding spoilers. So
Yeah.
nicely done there.
I try.
Okay, the next question. I like hearing the different angles for this one. Presented with the opportunity to replace the national anthem with any song on your playlist, what would that be? And tell me a little bit about why you would make that choice. So if you need some time, I can give you some examples too.
Give me some examples. I want to hear
Okay, all right. So the one that I keep coming back to, and guests will or and listeners will know what's coming, but the big one that I use as an example is multiple guests have said "Super Bass" by Nicki Minaj,
it.
and
Okay.
it's actually part of the line of thinking for the prompt for this question is there there's a picture that I see pretty frequently of Nicki Minaj, and she's like on an American flag, like doing like a salute that people will post pretty frequently, and that is part of what makes me laugh about this question. And also I love the idea of being at a sports um it's a venue, it's an event, and just it's a being called to rise for the national anthem, and that's that's the intro for um whatever song you're replacing it with. That's kind of the lens that I look through it to see how funny it would be. Or maybe you're just looking to find something that's um, almost as patriotic too. So it's a lot of different ways you can take it.
Well, based off that, I would say this isn't too crazy of a pivot. Pretty much anything by Leonard Skinner would really get me riled up for patriotism.
Nice,
Or, and I haven't listened to the song in a long time, but it was the first song that came to mind when you said that. Big Green Tractor.
nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Those are some excellent answers. Big part of my TikTok algorithm right now is um like Americans kind of like quasi like bullying like British people, and will like whatever clip that they're posting like just put it's the solo to Freebird. So I think a big one that was recent was for um for Le Mans, which is the circuit, the 24-hour circuit.
Mhm.
um the uh Chevrolet entered a Camaro like stock car, and it just shows like the um the Camaro like chasing down like Ferraris and stuff like in this race. And they're like putting it like to the solo Freebird. Shout out to the From Way Downtown boys. They put me on to those clips. I had to go check it out after I heard it on their podcast, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So All right, and last question here before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it all is how do we know each other? What's the connection between us?
So we grew up going to Covenant Presbyterian with a bunch of other of our friends. Um, and I don't even remember the first time I met you. I think we've known each other ever since we started going to Covenant. I mean, my parents, my grandfather like helped found the church, so I know my parents have been going there for more than 30 years, right? So is that accurate? Do we meet
Yeah.
before then?
No, I couldn't think of any other time before then, and that was just like such a that would have been such an early introduction to a lot of people in my life too. So yeah, that's absolutely it. It's
Mhm.
a for me, it's a two because there was just I think in this is a lot of people's experience with youth groups and growing up in a church is that you have a lot of people your age that you're interacting with that don't go to the high school that you do, and you like in sharing that it's a little bit like different relationship, and you can kind of identify with like certain things, but like it was cool to be able to have that with like some people that it's a I wouldn't have interacted with otherwise, probably. Like there wouldn't have been the opportunity to like get to know somebody in that way.
Yeah, you never would have met any kids from Altamont. I was that oddball out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like it just in terms of like proximity and like opportunity, just what wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think that I think the only ever time I ever went to Altamont High School was I went for like I went for Ultimate actually. Was I went and I played one like day tournament for Forge. Um and we had like a practice like at Altamont High School, and that was the only time that I ever went actually.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, we were not very good. That iteration of Forge was not very good. We we went and we didn't have like full lines basically. Like we had probably 8 or 9 people, one of us like got injured like pretty early on in the day, and we got we got smacked around.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it was fun though. Like I hadn't up until that point hadn't got to like compete with people my age in Ultimate, so but it was cool. All right, so getting into it a little bit more. So obviously you've been playing Ultimate for a bit, but what was your introduction to the sport? Like how did that come about?
I'd say that's threefold. The first introduction was probably Covenant with Throw and Grow. You know, playing at the church on Wednesday or Thursday nights or something like that. Just throwing around, kind of bunch ball, no organization at all. Maybe fifth or sixth or seventh grade, something around that time.
Hmm.
I had the second thing. I had family that played growing up in Buda, which is the local Birmingham league. So I sort of knew about it. And then in eighth or ninth grade, a guy I knew at Altamont, his dad was an old head in Birmingham, really plugged in, really good at making organizing events and everything like that. And his son invited me to play open play one day, and so I
Yeah.
went out and played pickup. And I think I've told this story before, but I ended up having a great time the whole time, and ended up throwing a behind the back for a score at the end of it, and that kind of hooked me, and I was
Yeah.
addicted until, right after that. So that's
Yeah.
a few different facets. Never got fully plugged in, but those three things kind of got me fully entrenched in Ultimate.
Right. Yeah. So that absolutely, and I think what if you're not familiar with Ultimate as a community, and we'll talk a little bit more about this I think, but it's a very welcoming environment, and it's very I like so if you're to go to like a gym or something and just play pickup basketball, you're going to get all kinds of just general attitudes and kinds of reception. And that goes for a whole handful of sports, but with Ultimate, I was really kind of attracted to it just for their in general that so welcoming and people who were like so willing to step into a mentor type role to like teach me throws or like, hey, you should cut this way, and like try and get me better. And I was like, I've been here for like 45 minutes and you're already like coaching me up a little bit and like trying to help me out, even at the expense of you getting playing time. Basically, like they would be like walk off to like to be on the sidelines to like help me learn about the sport a little bit more.
Yeah.
um so yeah, so when what then do you would you say was your first experience with like organized like league type of play? You mentioned Buddha, so I'd kind of assume that that's what it was. But what was that like?
I think the first introduction to organized Ultimate would be I think you played in it too, the Booyah
Hmm.
Birmingham Youth Association.
Yeah,
So that was actually the first year that was around. Both of us played in it. It was targeted at younger, probably fifth or sixth through 12th, to be honest,
yeah,
grade. Just teaching fundamentals, getting people interested in frisbee, and so that was my first organized, look at it. Now I had tried this organized team in Altamont the year before, but really being taught by people who knew what they were talking about really kind of started my senior year of high school. So that Booyah was a lead in to, hey, I'm starting to meet people in the community, starting to understand this game a little bit more, and it kind of springboarded me into looking at playing for Alabama as well. So.
nice. And then so what was the college kind of experience like? Because for me that would be pretty intimidating. For one, I went to a much smaller school, but then you've got people probably at Alabama who had been playing for much longer. So what was it like to come alongside those kinds of guys, and just what was your experience like at Alabama?
Unfortunately, I elected to do a fraternity the first 2 years, and so I kind of put Ultimate to the wayside. If I
Sure.
could go back and do it again, I would try and find a good combo of both. But ended up trying out for the team, making it, my first year, and then realizing I didn't have enough time to do both.
Yeah.
So that my junior year is when I fully committed and kind of, took everything super seriously, started training all the time. But it was the first time since high school I had done, practices 3 or 4 times a week, getting back into a team environment and going towards a singular goal. And it was awesome. I mean, there were guys that had played in high school that had a lot of, a breadth and depth of knowledge about the sport that I didn't pick up playing leagues or didn't pick up, at the youth association. And so I did learn a lot my first year. And then the second year, you went to Homewood or Vestavia?
Vestavia.
So Jacob Lidford.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he took over as a captain my senior year and really turned the organization around, kind of locked everyone down and was like, you got to get serious about this. You got to leave. And so, really pumped up all the workouts, really pumped up the seriousness of it. And we ended up, getting third in the region, which is the highest an Alabama team has ever placed. So,
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah.
So
It was awesome.
so that's cool. That's cool too, because it from the way you're describing it, it sounds like a very like self-motivated like kind of group. Like like was there like an advisor kind of involved with it, or like a coach kind of involved with it at all? Like it seems like because it was a club type experience, it was like, all right, boys, like we're going on a run, or we're doing these cuts today. Like what is that kind of it?
Yeah. So right now in Ultimate, the best teams have coaches and they have youth organizations feeder teams basically, or you know, it starts super early and you start teaching these kids when they're in fifth or fourth or even earlier, right? With but that's like the top 10 teams, like your UNC, your Colorado, other,
Hmm.
organizations that have been very good for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, that is not the case for the rest of the United States for colleges. You've got mainly player coaches. Sometimes people come and help out and dump their knowledge onto the team, but other than that, is very self motivated for the college game at least. Not saying there's a lack of commitment there, but there's just a lack of, people above the players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it seemed I don't because it's fairly young as a sport. Like I'm trying to remember. I wrote like a paper on it on Ultimate just in general in college, and I feel like it didn't really start as a sport um until like 70s or 80s even. But it like started kind of like as collegiate like competition. It was I think it was two Ivy League schools. So like similar origins to like what football would be, honestly.
Yeah.
Um so what impact have you seen yourself making either just in community where the team's located or programs that the team's running or just on the team itself? What have you seen? How have you seen yourself impacting others in just by being there? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing that comes to mind there, since we've already talked about Booyah, is that left a huge impact on me moving forward. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm still doing Ultimate now is we did that. And then at the end, Matt Smith gave me an award. And I was like, oh my goodness, a professional Ultimate Frisbee player just gave me an award. This is the best day of my life. So
Mhm.
taking that into account, I have helped with Booyah a few summers in a row, going back and teaching the kids. It's awesome to be around that and see the next generation of kids that are coming up. When I was playing for Atlanta, I helped out with a clinic here and there, and there are a few clinics coming up in Indy as well. So it's a little bit harder with Indy since I live in Birmingham to kind of help out with the
Right.
local area, but they've got a few options where it's only a few hours before the game where we're having a clinic with the kids, and so that's also been a nice outlet as well.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. Wow.
yeah, but honestly, just helping out in Birmingham is what I've been doing and what I want to do moving forward, especially for the youth scene.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. I think there's not a much bigger way than you can engage with the community around you and like the sport other than working with the youth because you're creating lifelong fans of the sport and hopefully practitioners too. And you had a lot an impact from your experience with Matt and Booyah. For those listening, Booyah is Birmingham Ultimate Youth Association. And yeah, I remember it was such a cool experience. That first year that we played, it was like it's a is 12-year-olds and 18-year-olds like all on the same team, and you would basically just pair up with like hopefully people of similar ability, and it's a hanging out and you're trying to like help other people like grow in that. So it was no, that's awesome. Um, so we've mentioned a little bit that the AUDL is a fairly young professional league. What does that look like for you as a player? We touched on it a little bit in that you have a real job, as we'll say. But what does that look like? You live in Birmingham, but you're on a team in Indy. So lay that out for us.
Yeah, so this is my second season with Indianapolis. I did not know what it was going to look like last season, but in terms of schedule and everything that comes with it, I feel like I've gotten kind of a good feel for it. So each season starts around late April, early May, and you have a preseason leading up to that. That's usually about 3 or 4 months, could be a little longer depending on the team. And what that looks like from a professional ultimate player's standpoint is, for me living in Birmingham, I'm not going to be there during the week, right? That's a lot to ask to be there, be 7 hours away and travel up a few times a week. So what I do to get the maximum amount of reps with the team is I attend tryouts, which is on a weekend, and then you have super weekends going up to the first game day, I guess. And so a super weekend entails 2 days of practice, could be 2 days, could be one practice and then film or whatever. And I'm basically traveling up once or twice a month on the weekends to be with the team, have several hours on Saturday, several hours on Sunday to play with the team, run the schemes, learn all of that together, build chemistry, that type of thing. Then the season starts, and I'm traveling every weekend until it's over. Sometimes usually we have a bye week. For the past 2 seasons, Indianapolis hasn't had any double headers, which is nice because I don't have to travel, say, from Detroit back to Indianapolis back home.
Yeah.
I just have to go one place and then come back home, which is cool. But for the Central Division, so I used to play for Atlanta, play with them for a season. I play for Indianapolis now. There's Indianapolis is in the Central Division, so that means we play teams like Pittsburgh, Detroit, Madison, Wisconsin, and a few other teams. Yeah, Minnesota as well.
Yeah.
What that entails is basically traveling to Indianapolis for half the season for our home games, and then traveling all around the Central Division for the away games.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's a lot of travel.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like, and you mentioned too that you're traveling for work in addition to this. How does that stack up? Are you just racking up the miles, or are you driving most of these experiences? What's up?
Yeah, so I have found a good rhythm with work to where I'm not traveling as much as I did the first few years. But my territory includes Tuscaloosa and the bottom half of Mississippi. And so I'm driving on average 500-600 miles a week during the week. And then thankfully I have friends in Nashville that play for the team. And so what I'll usually do when we have a home game is drive to Nashville, and then I'll have a friend drive me the rest of the way. So it's a 3-hour trip, and then I'm passed out all the way to Indy.
Nice. Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Well, that's really kind of them too. Well, so wow. Okay, so is that your experience of being kind of not centrally located in the hub of your team? It sounds like there are several other players that experience that as well. So is that like a big chunk of the team, or is that just like a handful of you guys? What does that look like?
It definitely varies team to team. For Indianapolis, there's a core of guys from Indianapolis, and then you have guys from Cincy, you have guys from Louisville, you have guys from Nashville, Knoxville, and Birmingham, and we even had a guy from Mobile who would ride with me. Cam Copeland, he's awesome. And but yeah, so all over the place.
Nice. That's wild to me. And what really speaks to me in that is just the level of dedication to the sport. It's really impressive to do that for anything, but then I think it also speaks to just how important the sport is, and the potential of it for communities, and just kids wanting to find something to do. So yeah, that's awesome. One element of Ultimate that's if you're not familiar with the community and the sport is this idea of good spirit. And what I kind of saw in it was that it played out in this element of sportsmanship. Almost, there was a lot of opportunity to the games that I played, and even to, I think, a certain extent in professional games that are self-officiated. I don't know if that looks the exact same now in the league as maybe it once did, but there, if there was a call, there was an opportunity for players to talk it out like amongst themselves and see if they could come to like an understanding, which is way different from what any other sport would maybe experience. So what does that look like for you on the professional level? Like, how have you seen that play out? Because I don't know, I think when I think of professional sports, a lot of that is the personalities that you're engaging with, but so like just being loud and like proud of what you're doing, but like what does that look like on a professional level, like for you, this idea of good spirit?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to define that is integrity. And we have in the AUDL now an integrity rule, which is where if the ref calls something and if it directly goes against benefiting you, or if it doesn't benefit you to overturn the call, say, fouls called on your opponent and you don't believe it was a foul, you can actually call integrity rule and kind of do this, and it will actually overturn the call in favor of your opponent. And how I've seen that play out is I've had teammates that are really, really great about it. Matt Knowles for Atlanta Hustle, every time he does something wrong and the ref doesn't see it, he's calling integrity immediately. But it even plays out for teams that we have, big rivalries with, the Radicals specifically. And there's a lot of guys that, we are contentious with on the team. And this past weekend, there was a foul, and one of them overturned it. And I was like, that's really good spirit. That's really great integrity. So that's kind of the difference that you're going to see in Ultimate.
Yeah, that's wild. So like, just to maybe try and draw a comparison to another sport, it would be like if you were in basketball and you stepped out of bounds with the ball, the ref doesn't see it, and you're like, no, like I did. That could look like a million things in basketball or Ultimate, but I think that there's even the opportunity to do that is a really cool and unique thing. That's cool that you've gotten to see that play out, in live action.
Yeah,
definitely. What's in your future for your relationship with the sport? I think you touched on it a little bit, and what do you think is in the future for just the sport in general, with how its place in culture? To kind of two-part that question, but what does the future look like for you and for Ultimate in general, do you think?
For me, the cool thing about Ultimate is you can play for a long time. You can play up until you're 70 or 80, right? Now that's not at a super high level, but we've got guys in our local league that are, 70, 71, and it's crazy how fast they are. I'm not kidding. For me, I see myself playing AUDL till I'm at least 33, 34, maybe. If Nashville brings back a team, I might even play till I'm 35. We'll see.
Nice.
But after that, I definitely see myself trying to give back, trying to get more plugged into the youth, and also helping coach. I've helped coach Alabama in the past. Definitely see myself going back there, maybe helping coach a more local team as well. I don't know. And then after that, who knows? But in terms of Ultimate overall, I do see the most important piece, and most people in Ultimate see this as well, is going to be the youth as well. Even other leagues like the PUL is getting extremely, extremely focused on, kids and really getting in that market. But yeah, I think it's going to continue to grow. I think the fact that we made it 10 years is huge, and I don't think we're going to go away. Now, the rate at which we grow, I have no idea. But I think it's sustainable, what we've done so far, and I hope it's going to be exponential in the next few years, because there's a lot of things that the league has set up to make it rapidly grow. The social media has been better. There's a video game coming out that I'm going to be in, which is exciting.
That's wild.
Like the youth, obviously, and there's a bunch of other things that Steve Hall, the commissioner, is working on that I'm excited to see grow.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And I think the youth element is, you saying that is maybe the more crucial piece. Is I totally agree in that, is that if I had been introduced to the sport at a younger age, I think that I would have been pursuing it for much longer. And if there was an outlet like at my high school for like a high school team, like then I would have probably done that over track. And not to say that I didn't enjoy my time in track, but I wasn't good. I was much better at Ultimate, and I like enjoyed it much better in the team component. But I remember talking to a guy on a ski lift in Colorado that they for the local kids, they will either dramatically like discount or just straight up give away like lift tickets and passes to like young kids, um the like school age kids, in an effort to kind of create lifers like for to support that economy, which different kind of motivation, but it's I mean, it's like the biggest way that you can build a community is like
Yeah.
start like instill some um that love for that sport for the long term.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's a pretty cool comparison.
So yeah, absolutely. Um it's a kind of shifting gears a little bit. I did get some people send in some questions for Instagram if you don't care.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So this one comes from Casey. If you could have any animal as a pet, what would it be? Tell me a little bit about why you say that one.
This question is perfectly timed. So last year I got to the Madison game way too early. And I got to the fields way too early and just basically did nothing and rolled around all day and just
Mhm.
waited for the game to start. This year I came prepared. Um, Still got there early, but I had a plan. So I was either going to go to the botanical gardens or the zoo. Ended up going to the zoo. So to answer your question, I saw a bunch of cool animals, and I think the cutest ones that I saw were the lemurs.
Nice.
And so you can't just get one; you got to have another one so it can, they can play with each other, right?
Right.
So I'd probably get two lemurs and just, see whatever shenanigans ensued.
Nice. Okay. You got it. And I like the element of having a dynamic between them two. Who?
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I was the Boomafu a big show for you growing up? That's or like when you were really young. That was a big
No,
one for me.
actually,
It's a that was well I mean like probably until I was 4. Like I don't
yeah.
it's a I say growing up, but like that was maybe my number one PBS show. So shout out to I think the lemur passed away in the last few years, but
Oh no.
that's a yeah, but lemur, good choice. I like that a lot. Um I did kind of have a just question. Dakota said, "How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" I don't know that we need to entertain that with an answer unless you've got one.
A lot.
It's a perfect. We'll move
I
on.
mean, a lot, probably.
A lot probably. That's perfect. Um, this one comes from Jasmine, and Jasmine has been on the show. So what is your Waffle House order?
It's got to be a few eggs over medium, some hash browns, some bacon or sausage, depending on how I'm feeling. Maybe some fruit and
Nice,
maybe some coffee. But that does it.
nice, and a Newport sprinkled over the top of it.
Yes, 100%.
So you gotta have the seasoning that way. Love it.
Yes.
Um, and then last question comes from Anna. What have you found yourself falling back in love with lately? And the thing that she cited was reading, and that big reader growing up. I've had a little bit of this experience as well, but just kind of has really like dived back into reading and pursuing that longingly. So, is there anything that you've found yourself, kind of getting back into and reigniting in yourself?
Yeah. I would say reading is one of them for sure because of
Mhm.
this. Another thing that might not be 100% what the question was aimed at, but jam band music.
Okay,
Um, I kind of went through a phase when I was younger, listening to like The Dead and Fish and a bunch of other jam bands.
sure.
And I'm not saying like I completely pooed them away. I just didn't
Yeah.
listen as much in the past few years, and I've been nonstop listening to Goose for the past few months, and I got to
Okay.
see them live recently. So
That's what I was gonna
really,
ask.
yeah,
Is did you go see him? How
yes,
was it?
it was amazing.
Nice.
Hard to put into words. Right as they started, actually a flock of geese flew over, and everyone was freaking out.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
yeah,
fun. I'm sure that was a fun crowd to engage with too.
it was an experience for sure.
Yeah. No doubt. I was at a kid's birthday party kind of the day of that. So with the people that I was interacting with, there were several of them that were going to be going later, but it was cool to kind of talk to them about that. But that's good. Awesome. Well, before we close out, do you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to plug and share?
Uh, not really, to be honest. I'm glad I made it through this whole thing. This is my third day in a row without caffeine. Just kind of randomly started it,
Nice.
and yeah, it's been a few years since I tried this, but yeah, so I'm glad I made it through. But
Nice.
yeah, definitely. I'm glad you put it down there. Anything Alleycats related, would love to plug that. That's the
Yeah.
social media. Rochelle is the one that runs it. She's awesome. She stays super plugged in. So yeah, that's all I got.
It's a nice. So okay, so tell me a little bit about it said this is an active choice to not have any caffeine.
Yeah, basically what happened is I didn't sleep very well on Friday night just because we went out after the game, and then Saturday I was going to be flying all day, and so I just decided not to have any caffeine. And then Sunday I was like, I'm doing pretty well so far,
Mhm.
and so today was the first struggle making it through a full workday
Yeah,
without caffeine, and I
sure.
did it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It was just kind of random, came out of the woodwork, but I'll see how long it lasts.
Nice. Okay, so what before this then, what was your main mode of consuming caffeine?
This is going to sound really weird, but caffeine pills usually like 100
Okay.
milligrams in the morning. So like about a
Oh,
cup of
interesting.
coffee. Yeah, so like not a lot. Just a heck of a lot cheaper than going to Starbucks or something.
Yeah,
And then if I was ever tired in the afternoon, maybe a little bit of coffee, but nothing
nice.
too crazy.
Okay, interesting. See, I would in my head, I would have flipped the order of that. I would have gone like coffee for the morning, I like to as part of the routine, and then like if I was doing caffeine pills, I would have done it in the afternoon, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. Well, I love that. Yeah. So we did throw up the indie socials, so you can follow the team that Fletcher plays for on Instagram. He's wearing the jersey right now. Love to see it. So you made me an indie fan. I don't know other than you that I would have had any kind of connection there. But yeah, I it's love to see what you're doing and wish you all kinds of success in the league and beyond that too.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I do believe that that's going to close us out. This has been the sixth episode of When I Was Your Age. Big thank you to Fletcher for coming on. Um, and yeah, we'll see you again next time.